Guys, thanks for coming. I know this is media day. Really appreciate everybody coming out for our football team today. I guess general opening statement, and I'll turn it open to you guys. Just excited to be back into football. You know, with our rules now in the summer and us being able to be around our football team so much, it doesn't seem like, you know, maybe that sense of euphoria that you get sometimes with football since we've been around each other all summer long. But our kids have really done a great job. I was really happy with our summer plan that we were able to execute with our football team, and I think it's already shown up in the first 3 days of practice. Today's an off day for us, and then we'll pick up practice 4 and 5 on Friday and Saturday with another off day on Sunday, and then kind of get ourselves into the heat of fall camp here the next 2 weeks. But with that said, I'll certainly open up to you guys for any questions you might have for me.
Make me be the guinea pig. What does David Montgomery bring to your program on the field and off the field?
Yeah, you know, I think the starting point for David, for me, is off the field because, you know, one of the things that's been really unique about David is one of those guys that when you talk about having a program of sustained success, I've always believed your best players have to be your hardest workers. And David embodies that in every way, shape, and form. He is relentless at his craft. He's a guy that is, you know, we almost have to literally get him out of this facility at night because he wants to be here constantly. And so, you know, I think what he has done, some of the success that he was able to have at the end of last year gave him some credibility with his teammates. And what he's been able to do is he's been able to take the Jaquan Baileys and some of these guys around him, and he's been able to, great players have this unique ability to make others around them great. And he's really had the ability to have a tremendous impact on our football program and our football team because of how he prepares and what his work ethic and his commitment's like. And it's been really, really fun to watch him grow in his own game. I think his high-end potential is maybe as good as any running back that I've had the ability to coach. And we've got some really good running backs in that room right now that all have great potential. But David's certainly special in both on and off the football field.
1,000-yard rusher this year, given the fact that you're going to throw that out of the ball.
You know, I think that number, whatever that number is, you know, David's one of those guys that, you know, and again, Michael's got some of this, and, you know, Johnny Lang's got some of this, Kene, when healthy, has got some of this, you know, Sheldon even has got some of this. Is what I like about our backfield right now is those guys are so multiple. They can catch the ball in the backfield, you know, running back position. Sometimes when you line them up as wide receivers, you can motion them out of the backfield. You can create matchups that can really help you. And all those guys have that ability to do that, but especially David. You know, I think David's one of those guys that if he was one of our receivers, he'd be one of our top 4 receivers out there too, because he's just got that kind of ball skill. And you go back to him, he's a high school quarterback, you know, his last 2 years, and a guy that really understands offensive football. So, you know, whatever he is, he's going to be a major piece of it, whether it's catching the ball or running the football for us.
Matt, where does the defensive line rank among your biggest concerns heading into the season in terms of position groups?
Well, I don't know about, you know, concern in terms of, you know, having played live reps. You know, I think I'm really excited about what that group looks like right now. You know, 3 days into fall camp, that's the group that's made the absolute most improvement from the end of spring practice into where we are. And a little bit of that improvement is getting some of the young freshmen that have come in and joined our football program. Some of it is getting Matt Leo and Ray Lima of not only did they get spring practice, but now they've had an entire summer with us. Some of it's getting, you know, Jaquan Bailey and any that have grown in our program over the last, you know, 9 months, and now they've had a full summer here to develop and get, you know, guys. Jaquan Bailey's 260 pounds, and, you know, I told Jaquan it looked like, you know, he had a tire on his tummy last year during football season. Now he looks like he looks like a statue, you know, of what defensive end should look like. And he went from 260 pounds to 290 pounds, and, you know, and so to me, I think we've grown a great deal. We look the part in a lot of ways, but now it's that opportunity to say, are you concerned? Yeah, I think concerned is probably maybe the wrong word, but I'm apprehensive to crown them kings either. There's still a lot to be proven of that group, and we need a great fall camp. We need to show we can make plays and be disciplined under the lights. So to me, I think there's a lot of anticipation and maybe apprehension, to still see that group grow day in, day out. But so far, it's been really fun to watch that group because I think there's a lot of talent there.
We've asked a lot about Joel at linebacker, but when do you think you'll know how and how much you might use him offensively this season?
Yeah, I can already tell you, Joel Lanning's going to play offense this year for us. And, I think how much is probably be dictated by, situational football as we get into it, as we really we already know what Joel Lanning can do for us on offense. And so for me, it's a matter of, we're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. What are we? Who are we? Who are our best players on that side of the football? Situationally, where does it make sense to bring Joel into the football game for us to have success? What do we want to have him do? And I think a lot of that as fall camp kind of continues to develop and see what we are as a football team and what we need will certainly dictate that a little bit. But I definitely, you can count on seeing Joel Lanning play offensive football for the Cyclones this fall.
What can expectations be like for Jacob Park, given he's had a full offseason now and he's had time to kind of settle in and really kind of hone what he can do, I guess? It seems like it's been a while since he's really been in one place for this amount of time. And what can that do for him going into this year?
Jacob, and the nice thing for all of us is we've seen some of his high moments, some of his moments where he's played really good football. And when you've watched that, you've seen a guy that has the ability at this level in a Power 5 conference in the Big 12 play at a really high rate. And, so we already know when he's playing his best looks like. Now it's a matter of taking those last 6 months and creating that consistency in those rough edges and smoothing those out and really giving him the confidence of here's our offensive playbook. Here's what our expectation of you on a day in, day out basis is, and having that ability to be consistent. And, I think his ability level is as high as any quarterback that I've certainly had the ability to coach. He's got elite arm strength. He's got the ability to make all the throws. He's elusive. He can create, and move in the pocket, all those things that you want from a quarterback. But what's been really enjoyable about Jacob Park is to watch his growth, even the first 3 days of practice. I think you leave the first 3 days of practice and you say, there's a guy that really feels comfortable in what he's doing offensively. So, we're excited about Jacob. Jacob is, again, now you're saying probably 5 games really into where he's been the starter. So there's going to continue to be growth in his career. But if he continues to go the way he's going and he's shown to go so far, I think he's got a chance to have a great career here.
Matt, you talked about having to teach this team how to win last year, and how have you seen that in that aspect, and how do you continue to teach that with this year's group?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us was to teach those invaluable lessons of, one word you said is how to be a team, and then 2, what's a team look like when you're trying to compete to now win games. And I'll even start this off. Everybody knows I've talked so much about the process to get there, but I think the end of last football season, winning some of those games, and really for me it was losing some of those really close, hard, tough games last year that were invaluable learning experiences for our football team. And what we were able to do this offseason is we were able to really understand that, hey, this is what we were talking about. It got to the fourth quarter of some of those games, and we're inches away, or there's a play here and a play there that we don't make that. But yet, a year ago in that offseason, we weren't putting the time and effort to make those plays. And I think what our kids did is they carried those lessons, and some of those, I think we learned so much more sometimes by when things don't go well, that I think we were able to really couple that with a great offseason, a great summer, and put that together to prepare ourselves for now what is fall camp. And so a huge part of the process now is how do we get ourselves ready for the early part of the season. One of the unique things here is you're talking there is no ease into the football season. It's not, hey, let's take the first 4 games and feel our way into it. You got to be ready to go from day one. And so I think now that's the next learning curve is how are you ready? There's only 12 guaranteed opportunities. How do we prepare ourselves to be ready to be consistent through 12 games in a college football season? and then see what happens from there. So I think there's, certainly been great growth, and really excited about the continued growth of learning what it takes to sustain success.
Matt, for you personally, what was the biggest difference walking in here today when you walked into Media Day this time last year, a year ago?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing for me is knowing really who our football team is. A year ago, I think the apprehension, not only from myself but our entire staff, is you're 6 months into a brand new football team, and trying to create trust and belief within the walls of your program, but also yet trying to uncover what your players can and can't do. I think now we've got a really, not only do we have a really good understanding of what our kids can and can't do, but also the ability to give them the tools over the last 6 to 7 months to enhance their own development and start to really create development within our walls, and that to me is the essence of football program. It's not just go recruit guys and get good players here. It's really develop those people within your walls and give them the tools and resources to have sustained success. And I think that we feel really comfortable with, even though we've only been here now a year and a half, that we've been able to give some of those tools, and it's been fun to watch some of our improvement.
What kind of opportunity is this senior season afford Alan Lazard?
Well, Alan's had a great career here, in 3 years, and in terms of personal achievement, there's been a lot of positive things that Alan's been able to contribute to this football program. I think Alan's a young man that when he made the decision to come back here, it was more than just personal achievement. It was about leaving a legacy here, about giving that opportunity to maybe change the tide of this football program. And we talked about that a little bit. Is this, come here, have so many receptions and so many touchdowns, and that's all great. But to me, it's got to be bigger than that. And I think Alan's been a guy that's kind of been, echoed those achievements and says and understands that it's about, his opportunity to leave a legacy far greater than that. And, I think he's got a chance, as well as this entire senior class, to swing the tide of where this football program's going and have a chance to really leave a great legacy on this football program, way more off the field than maybe what we see on the field.
Matt, I remember that going back to that year and a half ago, you had all those individual meetings, one-on-one with a lot of people. As you look back at those consultations, what kind of growth have you seen? How does it kind of echo in your mind as you're building toward this season?
Yeah. Well, and that's such a really good question. I just would say the one word I'd say is alignment. I think everybody that touches our football program right now is aligned to the same vision. And, as we came in here, whether it was player or whether it was, strength and condition and athletic training, nutrition, academics, it's all of us are together, unified, going in the same direction. And one of the unique things at this level, in my opinion, is there's so many people that touch your program. And, even at a mid-major school, there's one strength coach and there's one athletic trainer. But at this level, there's so many people that embody and touch your program one way or another. And to me, it really is the head coach's responsibility to align everybody that is touching that, as well as your players, towards the vision of where you want your football program to go. And I think that's something that was certainly apparent early on, and something that we've worked really hard and to get to that point. And you have to work really hard daily to keep it at that point, because I think it'll be the essence of when we have success. It'll be because of our alignment in this program with everybody that touches it day in and day out.
You guys had some true freshmen last season that emerged to be pretty good playmakers for you. Who are some of the guys in this new recruiting class that you could see maybe playing that kind of role this season?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jared. I will say this. This will be maybe my 7th or 8th year putting a recruiting class together. This is, bar none, from top to bottom, the best recruiting class that we've been fortunate to put together. And whether it was luck or whether it was, you just don't know sometimes. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is, and it's nice now, they've been here since June, so you have at least an understanding of what they are. I think you can make a statement like that and not say that's a fluff statement out there to make everybody feel good. I think it's a real statement to say, we're really fortunate that this class has given us some great depth. Now, who and what has flashed, I don't know if that's fair yet either, because we've only had 3 practices, not even a real football practice in terms of putting all the pads on and getting out there and hitting and being physical. So I think any of those statements would be premature. I think collectively, the offensive line, I know I said this down in Dallas, it's already shown is the best group of young men that we've had the ability. You talk about five scholarship offensive linemen, all 5 will have a chance to be really high-end players here at some point. Then you throw in Josh Kniffel that comes in right at the end, and a guy that's going to give us instant gratification of being able to come and help our football team have success. Tight end wise, we really like what Charlie Kolar's about in this class. Johnny Lang, you guys have heard my statement on Johnny. I think Johnny's right in the mold of what David was like, and certainly Kene was like. He's got high-end explosion. What he can and can't give us will be fun to watch and see. Tariq Milton has already been a guy that's flashed in the first couple of days of practice. Josh Johnson at the wide receiver position. So you look at the offensive whole, I think you see, man, that group looks really good. And then, by the way, here's Devin Moore, and high-end talent, can really throw the football and do what we need to do. But collectively, can they play for us this year? What can that group do? We'll see. And then you flip it over on the defensive side, and you already, I think we've all seen Ray Lima and Matt Leo. Those guys are going to be instant impact players for us somehow, some way. To what extent and to what range, I don't know yet, but I can tell you those guys instantly make our football team a better football team. Tucker Robertson is a young man that's come in this class, big, strong, physical. Dan Sichterman's going to be a good football player for us on that defensive line. Really like those guys. Cordarius Bailey can rush the passer. The 2 linebackers I've talked about, Hummel and Vance, really like those guys. And then O.J. Tucker, Datron Young, Keontae Jones, all those guys already can show that those guys can help us at some point. Now, where and what and how, it'll be really fun to watch and see. But I'll tell you, we're really, really excited about what this class has done, and that's our job. We got to continue to bring in classes like that, where if we can just continue to stack those on top of each other and keep raising that level of excellence, then I think we're going to be right where we want to be as a program through the long haul. But great question. I probably didn't give you maybe an exact on it, but hopefully at least enough information.
How's Coach Rashid doing?
Yeah, it's been tough. Coach Rashid is doing okay. As a matter of fact, myself, Coach Manning, Coach McDonald here in about an hour are going to fly out to Toledo to the funeral today. But Coach Rashid, and those of you guys that do or don't know, Coach Rashid's youngest son passed away last Friday in a motorcycle accident. A really tough way to start. Probably start fall camp out, but Coach Rashid has probably got one of the biggest hearts and one of the greatest human beings that we've ever been around. Him and his wife Caprice are incredible. It's been a really tough time for them and their family. But I'll tell you, I think you see the resolve and our growth is, our kids have rallied around him when he was back at practice. He was here for the first 2 days of practice, Monday and Tuesday. I think it was really good for him to get just back into some normalcy of life a little bit. And, Caprice was back here with him as well. They flew back on Wednesday. And, that's the one nice thing about being together as a staff for so long, because you know how to rally around each other. And, I say sometimes football coaching families, everybody, that's a cliche, the football family. But in times of crisis, I think that's when you really see family come together. And, we've been able to come together, and we're going to have to continue for a while to be there and support them.
Coach, the last couple of years, we haven't really seen a whole lot out of the tight ends. How much do you want to get that position going, and where does Chase Allen fit in all this? I mean, are you looking to have him be more of a focal point in the offense this year?
Well, you have to have tight ends to have a focal point of tight end, so that's one point. So, we finally got some tight ends now, so that part's a positive. But Chase Allen, Dylan Sainer, Sam Harms, that group is a really talented group. Charlie Kolar came in this class, so we now have at least 4 tight ends that are on the team, which is certainly a positive. Sam Seambuckner was a huge asset. I think sometimes he gets lost in our mix of guys that were a huge asset. We moved Sam from linebacker to kind of that F position, tight end, fullback, And that guy, when we played our best football last year, that guy was a major factor. He allowed us to run the football. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's reminded us in 3 days of practice how good of a football player he is. And I know Chase is certainly getting a lot of attention, and deservedly so. Chase is a really talented young guy. Dylan Sanders, 270 pounds, and he's 6'6". And we don't have many guys in our program that look like that and runs about a 4.75 40. So, having guys like that are assets to our program, it's going to be really fun to have. Ultimately, we want to get to the point where our running game and our ability to run the football is a huge positive. And tight ends are a need for that to happen because you can create gaps and create run lanes. But again, not to be negative, but it's great to finally have some tight ends in the program that we can develop and we can really work to start to build what we want to do offensively. Are we there yet, and are those young guys there yet? Boy, those are still, you're talking redshirt freshmen that are just growing, they're puppies. We'll use them as they're able to help us as our football team continues to grow.
At that wide receiver Z position, what's it going to take for one of those three to separate themselves as the top guy at that spot?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be a really fun race. You're talking Marchie Murdoch, who really came off of an incredible spring. Marchie didn't get here a year ago. He was that graduate transfer with 2 years left, and Marchie didn't get here till literally the day of fall camp a year ago because he was finishing up his schoolwork at Illinois. Marchie kind of made his way through the season a year ago, and all of a sudden, you go through spring practice and you're like, wow, this guy is really playing high-end football. And that's what I love about seniors. When the hourglass is turned and the sand's starting to run out, all of a sudden, sometimes you see that spark finally come, that it becomes elite. And Marchie's one of those guys that has just incredible spirit, incredible work ethic, and a guy that's right now really put himself into the top of the list. You look at that whole group. Matt Eaton's got to be a guy you want to talk about. Hakeem Butler, maybe the most talented wide receiver in our entire wide receiver room, when you really cut it open and look at it, who had a great spring and's really had a great summer as well. So I think there's high-end playing time available right now for that wide receiver group, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all shakes out and what happens over the course of time. That's a good problem to have, though. There's finally competition. You go out every day to practice, and, it doesn't matter who you are. You better be ready to go, because if not, the ball's coming your way really fast, and if you can't catch it, the next guy will, and it'll be tough for you to regain that momentum, I think, right now. So a lot of competition is a great thing for our football team and our program.
1 year under the belt for the Big 12. What have you learned from this past season? And I guess what do you hope to incorporate from what you learned into this second year in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think the biggest, whether it's the biggest lesson learned, but I don't know style of play, what the play looks like, all things that probably expected and what I thought. The biggest thing that it is, everybody's got a great quarterback at this level. You're not going to play a quarterback that can't beat you. And so I think at the end of it, that was probably the biggest lesson learned. And, you need to go and play some of these guys, understand what they're trying to do structurally, offensively and defensively. I think anytime that happens and you get to see it for a year, that's certainly a positive rather than just on videotape. But, I think so much more about us and about learning about who we are rather than learning about, what the Big 12 is. And we've got a lot of respect for certainly everybody in this conference, but I think it was a lot more growing process on us than everybody else.
Mike Warren seemed to have a little bit, Mike Warren had a breakout freshman season, had a little bit of a sophomore slump. So two-part question. What does Mike Warren have to do to bounce back from that sophomore slump? And then what does David Montgomery have to do to avoid that sophomore slump?
Yeah, I think Mike's journey is first of all, just get healthy again, and Mike did that. I talked about Mike, this spring, and Mike could have easily said, hey, I'm going to go play somewhere else. Things didn't go well early on, but I think that was the biggest part of Mike Warren's journey, in my opinion, is Mike said, I am going to really get myself back to A, getting healthy, B, my craft, and putting the time and effort and work that Mike had to do all those things, especially when you're dinged up. You really got to get yourself healthy. And Mike had an incredible spring. Probably one of the guys that when you talk about we have a champions club and you talk about the winter, you talk about spring practice, you talk about the summer. Mike's one of those guys that was in it all 3 quarters for our champions club now going into the season. When you do that, that gives you a chance to really have a chance to reach your full potential. And what Mike's done is I think Mike has really come with a purpose to get himself back to where he wants to be. And I'm really proud of Mike. I couldn't be prouder of him. And, him and David together are a really great 1-2 combination. And, David, again, it's never worrying, the sophomore slump, all those things, those are all just terms. It's really about the ability to stay true to what your process is to be successful day in and day out. And that's why we talk about that all the time and something that we really harp on consistently.
What have you seen from Zeb Noland in his first healthy offseason?
Well, it really wasn't a healthy offseason. It was rehab until, really about the end of June, getting himself rehabbed and getting himself back to what we would say is 100%. Zeb really has been fun to watch these first 3 days because it's the healthiest Zeb has been. He's taken live team reps. It's been great to watch him move in and out of the pocket with some confidence right now, and it's been really fun to see him back on the football field playing football. Zeb really had a great start to things a year ago. Great for him to get those first 15 spring practices his freshman year. Great to get him camp reps a year ago. And then, it's never easy, 18 to 22 years old, and this process, adversity hits, and, fortunately or unfortunately for Zeb, it happened really early. The unfortunate piece is it happened early. The fortunate thing is he was able to overcome it. And, I think it's given him some confidence to go through that because there have been some ups and some downs through this process. But I think what he's been able to do is overcome it and now put himself in position to get ready to go out and compete. And you've already seen in the first 3 days, it's been really fun to watch him go out and be back on the football field to help our football team.
Matt, what are the pros and what are the cons to Matt Leo's career path to get here? I would think that there's some positives and some negatives to getting him here the way he's gotten here.
Well, I love guys in football that having a high-end passion for the game of football. And here's a kid that really gave up everything. He left home, 20, 21 years old. He leaves his family. He hadn't been home for 2 years, and he just flew back home right before the start of camp. Hadn't seen his family, hadn't seen his mom, his dad, his sister. He flies out here, on his own dime. He's working, really ready to start his own career back in Australia, and says, I'm going to take a chance on this. And not even on scholarship when he goes to Arizona Western. He pays his own way there. And so I love guys that appreciate this game and that are driven to be the best. And Matt it's an internal drive. You don't leave home. You don't give that all up. You don't give up a great job and all those things to say, hey, listen, I'm going to come to the United States of America and just give it the old try. It's really been a vested interest in the sport and the game. And, what's fun about Matt is some of the similar qualities that David Montgomery has. Matt's here all the time. Matt's, training. He eats right. He's addicted to the process that it takes for him to be the best because there's a personal investment for him to want to be the best. And so I think both on the field and off the field, when you have a guy like that who is a really good player, on top of it, his investment level is really high. It starts to take all those young guys around him and say, man, I want to be like that guy. That guy's a really good player, and look at the time and the effort that he puts into it, and it starts to create a culture around you that says, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. So I think Matt has been a really great addition in terms of that aspect of it. His story is certainly unique, but his want-to is what makes him really special in my opinion.
Coach, with the elimination of two-a-days this year, how has that caused you to change your structure of preseason camp, and perhaps has the summer changes that you alluded to earlier made that a little bit of a moot point?
Yeah, I think it's a moot point. It was a moot point probably 10 years ago in our profession, in our sport, and the only reason I say that is, our kids are here all summer long. This isn't, 15 years ago where everybody in May goes home and, they come back in August, and you have to use all August to get your guys in shape. You know, now your kids are here all summer long. They're in the strength and conditioning program. They come into camp in great shape. You know, two-a-days used to be for that ability to get your guys into shape and get them into football shape and be ready to play football. Really, if we had to go play a football game, you know, this Saturday, I feel like we'd be, at least from a physical conditioning piece, we'd be ready to go play. You know, our job now is not to screw it up, you know, in a lot of ways. And so, you know, I think that part is what's really interesting about how our sport is evolving. So, you know, I think we have been working this schedule for the last 4 or 5 years anyways. I think I've said this before. I used to be the guy that could practice for 4 hours. You know, I love practice way more than I like football games. But to me, you know, I think I had to learn how do I control that and how do I understand that you can't run these guys into the ground, and you've got to be really cognizant of doing a great job of getting your guys to the game. And this is a whole year process, not just a football season process. And I think that's really what our sport's become now, is it's literally an entire year process, and everything you're doing in your football program from the winter to the spring to the summer is you're preparing for those 12 guaranteed opportunities that you have. And so every decision you make, you know, in terms of physical conditioning and how you practice really goes into that thought process, is how can we be our best on those 12 opportunities. But I think those rules, all that did is it kind of really made you reaffirm yourself of what your plan is and what you're about. But for us, it hasn't changed just a whole lot.
What does having a healthy Jake Campbell do for an experienced offensive line?
Well, it makes the head coach sleep. That's one nice thing to have Jake back. You know, I can actually get a little bit of sleep at night. So that part's positive. Jake is such a key asset to our program. And Jake, like I've said about some of our other players, had zero to do with talent. Jake is a very talented player. I think guys that have watched Jake play before we've gotten here notice that Jake has had high-end ability. But what Jake brings to the table is who Jake Campos is off the field as well. You know, you're talking a 3.7 student in our engineering program. You're talking a guy that loves football. He's a great teammate. I think some of the growth of even the guys like Jaquan Bailey and Sean Foster and Bryce Meeker, a lot of credit's got to go to guys like Jake Campos because of his leadership in the weight room all summer and, you know, corralling that group and being around that group. You know, the offense and defensive line together lifted all summer long, and that guy, you know, he brings it every day, and he's kind of been able to get those groups going. So I think he's really had a huge asset, as much as, you know, Coach Manning gets credit, and he deservedly does. You know, a guy like Jake Campos, he's a guy that's really trusted into who we are from the day we've gotten here and has been just a key leader for our football program. I'm really proud of Jake, and he's had a great offseason, looks really good. We got to get him to the game now, and I'm really excited to watch him play and have a great senior year for us.
What is it about this group that'll allow you guys to separate yourselves from the rest of the Big 12?
Oh, I don't know. You know, I tell you this is, I told my wife this last night, in all my years of coaching, I love coming to work every day because I love this group of kids. I don't know what it is yet, and maybe I'll have a better answer as the season goes, but you talk about our seniors and, you know, it just really trickles down. They love football. You know, I feel like these kids come every day. They got a smile on their face. They can't wait to get more knowledge. And I think it's just their willingness and their want to grow and their want to be the best they possibly can be. And whatever that is, that it's going to be really fun to see what that can become. But it's been a really fun group of young men to be around since the day that we came back in January. And, you know, it's a really neat group. So I don't know if I can even define that yet, but I think what it is that it will help separate us somewhere down the line is this unity. It's being a true team and, you know, that trust that everybody has in each other. And that's really hard it's easy to sit up here and say that word trust, really hard to have and really hard to embody. And I think this group's got at least the starting point of that.
I think it's been a while since we've asked about kicker, but what do you see from those guys right now? And then Garrett coming up, grad transfer.
You know,
what does he add to the mix there?
Well, you can already see Garrett. Garrett's got an explosive leg. You know, Garrett's one of those guys that the ball really, similar to Cole in a lot of ways, the ball explodes off of his foot. And I would say there's very similar qualities and characteristics that Cold Netton, has to certainly what Garrett brings to the table. And so I think we feel really confident. Garrett had a great spring for us. He's had a good summer. It's really fun for him. You almost see like a renewed sense of energy about who he is. Great for him too to have Kyle Starcevich, our holder, back, and our long snappers are back, which really I think helps the whole operational piece of success there. And then Chris Francis coming back has had a phenomenal year. I think led the Big 12 last year in kickoffs out of the end zone, which touchbacks, which was huge for us in our program. I think really helped when you talk playing good defensive football and field position. So we're really excited about that kicker position and really excited about our specialists in general. You look at, our specialists from long snapper to punter to kicker. You think we've got a chance to really have a great year, and we put so much emphasis and time into special teams that we're really excited. Coach Houston, Coach Gasser, those guys have done a great job developing those guys, but we look forward to watching that group play.
Assuming that Kenny isn't able to go in week 1, who do you see contending for that kick return spot?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Guys like certainly DeAndre Payne, Johnny Lang, Trevor Ryan, Mike Warren, guys that I think all guys that we feel like have the ability to do those roles and kind of be that guy. So there are certainly plenty of options if Kene isn't ready to go by that time. But again, those are things I think until we do it, till we get out there, we see guys have the ability to field it, vision, what that looks like and feels like. We'll be anxious to see. The thing I'm excited about is those other 10 guys around them. A lot of guys from that kickoff return unit that are back, which sometimes we don't think about, but I think that's pivotal, and you saw that group really get better as the season went last year and was really huge for us. Now you need a guy back there that can do, take care of the ball and do what he does with the ball, but to have some of those other pieces back is really big for us as well.
Matt, going back to what you were saying about Campbell being an engineering major and Golish telling us, whatever it was, Monday, that he's got a room full of engineering majors, which is way off our radar in this room. What player to you and says, I want to major in, or a recruit, I want to major in engineering, I want to major in biomedical something or other, a program that would have, to me at least, I would think a lot of labs. Do you dissuade that person from doing that and go into something more manageable, or do you work your practices around maybe what that person would be going through?
That's a really good question, and I'll tell you the story. I'm at the University of Pittsburgh as a freshman. I remember a couple of our best players were engineering and some other majors, and I remember the head coach saying, these guys walking out and being frustrated that they couldn't continue in because they were missing too much practice. And I always thought to myself at that time, and maybe that was part of where my frustrations came as a freshman, seeing this, saying, man, these guys are coming to go to school and they can't finish what they wanted to do. And I think that was always crept in the back of my mind. And, then when we got to Toledo, similar style where we were big engineering school, had, pre-med was certainly big. We had a med school, a med school right on our campus, which was great for us there. So for me, it was always the reality of, number one, we're going to shape our schedule around those opportunities. And, for us, Randy, that's why in the fall we practice in the afternoon, and in the spring we practice in the mornings to make sure our guys working with our academic staff can always get their labs and stay on track that they need to. And we kind of carried that over. When I got here, we met with Patrice Fulner, who really runs our academic support services here for our football program, and just said, are we sure this is the best plan for all those young men that are either in it or want to be in it down the road, that give our young guys the opportunity to have success? Now, the other part that I will tell you is I am also factual with young people that come in and say they want to do that, because just what you said, it is hard. There's a lot of time. There's a lot of effort. It takes a really special young man at an early age to say, I want to be an engineering student and I want to play Division I athletics. And, I want to be in pre-med and I want to play Division I athletics. And you have to, at an early age, be really understanding of your own process and be able to understand time commitment and put that time and effort aside. But, I think for the first two recruiting classes, it's been such a huge piece of our success in recruiting. And you even look at Chase's, situation story. A lot of Chase's great, I think enjoyment of our visit was going to our engineering school and sitting down and seeing what opportunities really existed and really being around our engineering program. I put so much. It's been really fun. We get a lot of accolades for recruiting around here. Who should get equal to that is really our university and, their commitment to meeting with our kids, our business school, our engineering program. I mean, they have been nothing short of amazing in terms of helping our guys and then letting our guys get off to success early on in their career, that now families come in and they talk to some of those guys in their major and they say, yeah, this can be done. I'm more realistic of how hard this is going to be, but if you're really willing to do it, it's certainly an opportunity, because we do have to remember this is still student-athlete process.
You mentioned on Monday the relationship between Warren and Montgomery, and I was hoping maybe you could expand on how you've seen that develop over the last few months or year.
Yeah, I think in our society today, in the culture of college football, where everybody, especially running back, quarterback, wide receiver, everybody wants the football. And I get it, right? That's all part of it. And then you see, the situation where, David and Michael start sharing carries a year ago, right? And Michael, right or wrong, starts to, has a lot of publicity coming into last season. Awesome opportunity, right? And now all of a sudden they're sharing these responsibilities. That could have easily went one of two ways. And probably 90% of the time that goes the way of negative. One guy's unhappy and one guy ends up leaving, right or wrong. These two, it almost brought them together. And, that took a lot of unselfishness and really a lot of true caring of each other for that to happen. And I give so much credit to Michael and David, because, you just don't see that. You don't see that really happen. And then all of a sudden, those two are working out together all winter long. And all of a sudden, those two are lifting together all winter long. And all of a sudden, those guys are watching film all winter long. And I'll be honest with you, early on, I'm like, man, is this really real, or is this kind of like, is this phony? But as I saw and I watched it, and then I watched both of them feeding off of each other. And that happened in spring practice, and it certainly happened this summer. And now, as we've even started fall camp, to watch those two and how they've started fall camp, it's been really fun, because those two have made each other better. And that's what competition really is. In real programs, true programs where you're developing, you compete with each other to be the best, you make each other better, and then all of a sudden, together, collectively, we have success. I know it's so cliche, and it's like, oh, does that really happen? But it can happen under the right environment and the right culture, and those two are certainly aiding our culture right now and making a huge impact.
We have time for one more question.
Matt, how crucial is it to the future of the program to make a bowl game, and how likely is it to make a bowl game this year?
Really for me, has zero to do with winning and losing, my humble opinion. Obviously, at the end of it, winning and losing will take care of itself. No greater competitor in this room than Matt Campbell. I'll cheat in golf if I have to win, right? But at the end of this, okay, the deal in football, winning and losing takes care of itself. And, we want to go play in bowl games. Yes, our goal is to be Big 12 champions someday, okay? But for us to get there, we have to learn what the process is and laying a foundation to continue that. I think we've laid a really good foundation. And success will take care of itself. I despise, it's certainly our job out here as media to talk about that, and I get it. I get it more than anything. But in our walls, it has to be about growth that you guys can't see, and ultimately it transfers onto the field when those games come along and you start to see what happens. And, where are we as a football program? Gosh, I don't know. We're in year 2 of taking this program over and seeing it. There's a lot of young guys that are playing. Does that mean we can't win and not have success? Absolutely not. That doesn't mean that. But it's going to be really fun to see where this team is in 4 weeks as we get ready to play, and play a really great schedule and a great challenge for this football team. But, I think as this season goes and we play these games, we can start, Andy, to talk a little bit about, did we achieve or did we underachieve? Where are we at? what's that really look like and feel like? And, like 6 wins, is that our goal? Win 6 games? Like, not here, not me. My goal is to win every game. And so, that essence of, is a bowl game success, is it not a success? To be honest with you, I despise talking about it because it's irrelevant. It's one day at a time, and then let's see what the finished product looks like at the end, and then we can talk about, did we achieve, or did we underachieve, or did we overachieve, or what's that really look like? All right, thank you, guys.